Welcome back to CBS This Morning. Kathleen, of course, is on vacation this week, and Faith is filling in. I'm Harry Smith, and this is...
Faith Sinus.
It is amazing how we do this.
And I am, you said to say, I'm Roberta Flack. No, I'm actually Mark McEwen. You told me to say that.
I didn't tell you to say that.
You suggested it.
That's not really true, but we'll move along, regardless.
We have a lot ahead this half hour.
Yes,
How about if I do that? Should a 4-year-old be tested to get into school? We'll debate the controversial issue, and the Reverend Robert Schuller will be along talking about his Hour of Power and his new book.
Also coming up, speaking of books, Vanna White will be by. Her bestseller is coming out in paperback, and she will talk about that book and other things this morning. Supermodel Cheryl Teague is going to join us with her secrets on staying super looking, and the fascinating Frank Zappa will be along with a look at himself in his own words. Now, Lyn Brown with the news. Good morning, Lyn.
Good morning, Harry. Good morning, everyone. Leading the news, the American soldiers in Honduras begin heading home this morning. Nearly half of the 3,200 troops in Honduras are packing up, and the first contingent should be back at Fort Bragg, North Carolina by tonight. There's been a very happy homecoming in Nicaragua. The Sandinista government freed 100 political prisoners as part of the ceasefire signed with the Contras last week. Talks on a more permanent peace accord continue this morning. And on Capitol Hill, Congress tries again today to hammer out an aid package for the Contras. The most recent proposal calls for humanitarian aid to help keep the Contras going during the peace process. Congressional leaders say they hope the third time will be the charm after 2 previous aid packages were defeated.
We need to move beyond the bickering in this country, particularly in this Congress. If the Nicaraguans can get together, if they can resolve their dispute, why can't we?
U.S. aid to the Contras ran out on February 29th. Richard Gephardt is expected to pull out of the presidential campaign today. He finished third in the Michigan caucuses, a contest he said he had to win to keep his candidacy alive. The big winner in Michigan was Jesse Jackson. And just moments ago on CBS This Morning, we asked Jackson about polls that show many voters have negative feelings about his candidacy.
The polls also show that the negatives keep coming down and the positives keep going up. And to that extent, that's why my message and the authenticity works when I can get to the people.
Jackson also voiced support for the Reagan administration's Middle East Peace Initiative. In Springfield, Illinois, workers will begin putting the finishing touches on Abraham Lincoln's house this week. The 2-story frame house has undergone a 3-year renovation and will be reopened to the public in June. Lincoln and his family lived in that house for 16 years before his move to the White House. The renovators stressed historical accuracy but added some modern touches: air conditioning, fire detection, and burglary systems. Now some people in the news. Brooke Ward is home in North Carolina, and her leukemia is in remission after a bone marrow transplant. The 7-year-old is the first to use a national registry that matches non-family donors with patients. Bernice King has become the 3rd generation of Kings to preach at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. The daughter of Martin Luther King Jr. gave her first sermon yesterday. And Larry Hagman says he is still happy playing Dallas villain J.R. Ewing 10 years after the TV series began. Hagman says when Dallas rides into the sunset, the oil man's tombstone should read, "This is the only deal he ever lost." And it's hard to think that J.R. Ewing will ever ride off into the sunset. Harry?
Thanks very much, Lyn. Well, sunsets, sunrises this morning.
Sunrise, sunset. I'm not going to sing
Couldn't
the song.
resist.
I couldn't.
Spring is here, and it's terrific.
Yes, it is.
We hope you have some good news.
I hope I do, too. Let's go over and talk about the weather. This morning's weather segment is sponsored by the makers of Sinus Excedrin, extra-strength sinus headache medicine. Our wake-up call goes to a little teeny tiny town in West Virginia. Middleburn, West Virginia. It's clear and 26 degrees. I get letters from Karen Leiden, Chris Farhat, and Susan Farhat. They said, how come you never wake up a small place like that? And so we're waking it up this morning. I hope they're having a good time with their coffee, watching all that, and as we hand that off to someone that you can't see. Coming up in our next half an hour, I'll introduce you to a man who can dribble a basketball up a 50-story building, so stick around for that. Let's talk about the the satellite right here. As you can see in the southeast, it's basically clear, some cloud cover in the northeast today. But right through the center part of the country is what's bringing in a lot of rain from Texas almost all the way up into Wisconsin, Minnesota. Right over my left shoulder here is where they had all of that warm weather yesterday. They had temperatures in the 70s. It's now in the 20s this morning. Let's look at the weather for today. Skies will be mostly sunny across the eastern quarter of the nation today, with those clouds and flurries now in New England expected to go away by around noon. Going to be on the cool side, though, in the northeast, with most areas remaining in the 40s. But we're talking about drastic changes. The reason is you can see the rain from Texas all the way up into portions of the Midwest. As I said yesterday, right around in here, they had warmer temperatures. You see in 20s with snow in the higher elevations of Wisconsin, also in parts of Colorado. You'll see 70s and rain through here, and that rain will slowly be moving its way towards the East Coast. That's a quick look at the national forecast. Let's take a look at your weather.
In the Delaware Valley, morning clouds, then mostly sunny and breezy today with a high near 57. Mostly clear tonight with an overnight low near 37, and partly sunny and warmer tomorrow with a high near 63.
That's a quick look at the weather. Now back to Faith.
Thank you, Mark. It is 24 minutes before the hour. Coming up, no matter how you spell it, America's most popular game show hostess is Vanna White. She'll be joining us live in just a moment.
When I have a headache, I take Excedrin. But when I have a face ache, and my face aches all over from sinus congestion, pressure on my eyes, my cheeks, my forehead, I take new Sinus Excedrin.
Introducing Sinus Excedrin. Extra strength pain reliever plus the maximum amount of decongestant you can buy. And nothing to make you drowsy.
If you have a face ache, take new Sinus Excedrin, the face ache medicine from Bristol Myers.
These mountains exist only in a computer. They were created from nothing but numbers, using a special kind of mathematics called fractal geometry. Developed at IBM Research, fractals give scientists a new way to look at nature, to study long-range pollution patterns, or explore the Earth's oil reserves. Fractal geometry, another innovation from IBM that helps people understand how the world adds up.
This craftsman is working with an extraordinary material called Corian. It's made only by DupPont. Corian has the elegance of marble, the permanence of stone, and stands up to severe abuse. So stains, burns, and cuts that would ruin an ordinary countertop can be easily removed. Its beauty is ageless. Corian, the solid miracle from DupPont.
The student council.
Is it June yet?
Miss Sunshine.
Don't start, Hackett.
Okay. Breakfast?
Brought mine?
Looks like dessert.
What's that, an experiment?
Nutri-Grain Nuggets?
It's too loud.
Come on.
Kellogg's Nutri-Grain Nuggets, the first whole grain nugget cereal.
Crunchy, huh? Oh, I saw a smile.
Nutri-Grain Nuggets.
Dedicated to the ones we love.
Vanna White is a woman of letters, of course. 42 million television viewers already know that. They watch her every day and night on Wheel of Fortune, which is the top-rated syndicated show in the history of television. But Vanna White has more letters to her than meet the eyes of wheel watchers, and she uses all of them in her book. Vanna speaks. Actually, we didn't do a scientific check to find out if there were Z's and Q's in there, but we'll find out about that in a second, which is coming out in paperback this week. In case you're wondering, what will Vanna wear this morning?
This is it. My own dress.
That's your own dress?
Yes,
and
it is.
It's not out of the costume department or anything like that. How do you figure out what to wear on your own when someone doesn't throw something on you every day?
Oh, it's fun. I shop all the time, and I like this. I think I'll wear this. But I don't have that much time to wear my own things. I'm always working.
I've got to ask you about the show. And in your own mind, do you think the show would have been as wildly successful as it is without you?
I have to say yes. I really do. People ask me, why is the show so popular? Or you're the reason, but it's not. It's the game. It is the actual game. I do think that the relationship that Pat Sajak and I have on the show helps
people to become more family-oriented with the show, because we're like a team. You know, we're a brother and sister type team, and everybody seems to like that.
But at the same time, the hardcover version of your book sold 75,000 copies.
Wow.
Which is just, I mean, it's more than incredible. It's almost miraculous. What is it like to be in the middle of this swirling storm of popularity?
It's wonderful. And by that, with this book that I wrote, it is the absolute truth. You know, over the years, a lot of rumors are spread that aren't necessarily true.
Tabloid gossip.
Sure. And this is my chance to say, this is my story. This is 30 years of my life. People think, well, what can she write about? All she does is turn letters. But I've experienced a lot of things in the 30 years, 31 years now, I should say.
Getting up there. But really, to be in the middle of all of this, I mean, you must not be able to walk down a street anywhere in the United States without people just all over you.
No, I can walk down the street. When I walk by people, they say, "Hi, Vanna, how are you?" It's like I'm their next door neighbor.
That's it?
So it's a good feeling.
Yeah?
They'll
There
ask
isn't
for
this
an
sort of,
autograph.
you don't feel like Elvis Presley or anything?
No. No. I'm still
you don't
the
have
same
to go to
person.
movies in disguise. What about Pat is leaving the nighttime wheel?
No, Pat's leaving the daytime wheel.
Pat is leaving the daytime
He's not leaving the nighttime wheel.
Okay, we've got that. Pat is leaving.
And he's not really leaving. His contract is up in December, so he is leaving that.
Now, we heard all these rumors that you wanted to take over the show. And is any of that true, and did you really ask to do it?
No, I did not.
Okay.
That's another one of those stories.
Ugly stories.
No, I'm happy with my position on the show.
How long do you think this can go on?
I don't know. It's going on for at least through 1992. And I just re-signed for 5 years, so I'm going to be there, and I'm happy about it.
That is just amazing. You're going to be working on a movie, though, this summer. What's that all about?
It's called Venus, Goddess of Love. It's going to be fun. It's a lighthearted comedy about Venus. She's a statue, and she turns into a real person.
You mean like the old rock and roll song? Who was that? Venus,
Oh, that's
Goddess
right.
of Love, that you
Yes.
are, whatever.
Yes. It's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to be shooting it the whole month of June.
Are you happy? Is Vanna White happy?
Yes, I really am. Everything's terrific. I have no complaints.
All right, we're happy that you came by to visit with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Take care. It is 18 minutes before the hour. Still ahead, getting into kindergarten. How tough should it be? Should kids be tested first? We'll hear both sides of the issue. Then, a different kind of exercise. Dr. Bob Arnott gets physical with Cheryl Teagues.
Taking care of this kid.
This Easter, Hallmark's the place that has all the products to fill your Easter basket with fun. Bunnies that wind up and zip away, rabbits that bounce, bunnies that hop, eggs that pop, and festive gifts galore. There are cute little critters on strings and bunnies waving high. Remember, Easter is April 3rd, so don't let the parade pass you by. March on over to Hallmark, the place to go when you care enough to send the very best.
They used to call me a tomboy. I'd climb these trees in my daddy's groves and eat the oranges fresh picked. I'd come home with orange nails and a sticky chin, and Mom would put me right in the tub. That fresh picked goodness is captured by Tropicana Pure Premium. The other major brands add things to or take things out of their juice. With Pure Premium, the way the rain and the sun make it is the way you taste it. Tropicana Pure Premium. You just can't pick a better juice.
Mom sure make life easier. Mine did. Like another mom, Phillips Milk of Magnesia. Phillips Mom helps your body work naturally for easy overnight relief. Even has this convenient dosage cup. Nobody treats you better than Mom.
Scott Emerson once had a heart attack. Today, he had a son. Studies show Bayer aspirin helps reduce the risk of heart attacks. Ask your doctor about a regimen of exercise, the right foods, and Bayer, the wonder drug that works wonders.
When Radio Shack put their $849 computer on sale for only $599, I just had to have it because it runs the same IBM PC software I use at the office. I got this complete system, including color monitor, for only $899. And it came with 7 programs in one, like word processing, budgeting. My wife uses it to run her catering business.
Homework, Dad.
They use it so much, I'm thinking of getting my own.
Save $250 on a Tandy 1000 SX, only $599 with software. Complete system only $899 at Radio Shack.
To test or not to test young children, that's the question dividing many educators today. Two national education groups have criticized the growing use of standardized tests to decide which children should be allowed to enter kindergarten and first grade. They feel that too often the tests work only to hold pupils back. Others defend the testing as necessary to keep children from work levels they're not ready for. Joining us this morning are Dr. Sue Bredekamp of the National Association for the Education of Young Children, who questions testing, and Dr. Louise Ames of the Gazelle Institute, who supports it. Good morning.
Good morning.
Dr. Bredekamp, let's start with you. What's wrong with the testing as it is now, as you see it?
The issue is that it's very difficult to get an accurate measure of young children. Young children are growing and learning so rapidly that what they're not capable of doing today, they may be able to do next week. Parents have all seen young children who can't hop today, and then all of a sudden next week they can. And yet the test locks them in time. It's difficult to predict what they'll be able to do in the future on the basis of a one-time test.
Don't you need some method, though, of separating children according to ability?
Well, I think the issue is, do we really need to separate children according to ability at the beginning of school? What's happening now is that our kindergartens are becoming more and more academic. What used to be taught in first grade is now being taught in kindergarten. As a result, more children are failing. Rather than testing and dividing out children at that early age, we need to look more at the curriculum, make it more appropriate for all the children so that all of them have an opportunity to succeed.
Dr. Ames, is that the way you see it?
We, too, regret the increasingly academic kindergartens. But even with the old-fashioned play-oriented kindergartens, some 5-year-olds weren't ready for the work. Not just the fact that you're 5 doesn't mean you've reached a certain level of ability. And our experience over the last, I'd say, 30 years is that perhaps 50% of the children who fail in school fail not because they're stupid, not because they're good kids, because they're not ready for the work, even of a very simple kindergarten. And we think perhaps the most important thing any parent could do for its child was to be sure the child didn't start school before it was ready.
And doesn't this sort of give the edge to the child who has gone to extensive preschool and has learned there?
No, because what they learn in school, at any school, isn't what we're testing for. The Gazelle Readiness Test, which are the ones I suppose we're kind of talking about this morning, try to tell you how far the child's body in action has come. And we do know with infants some walk early, talk early, and do other things early. And it's the same thing when you get to the kindergarten age. Some 5-year-olds are just not ready for even a simple play-oriented kindergarten.
Isn't the danger there, though, that you might stigmatize these children into always being the slow learner?
No, as far as we know, there's very little stigma involved. What we like to have is a pre-kindergarten available in each community. So here you've got a 5-year-old who isn't quite ready for the full kindergarten. He starts in the pre-kindergarten, or the developmental kindergarten. And in most communities, there's no stigma attached to being in we think, in a pre-kindergarten. And the important thing is to be successful right from the beginning.
I take it you don't agree with that, Dr. Bredekamp.
Actually, I don't agree with that. But there is a stigma attached to the pre-kindergarten, the developmental kindergarten. Parents begin to identify their child as slower than their peer group. Teachers begin to label them at that point in time, and children themselves will call each other slower or developmental as though that were a bad name.
If not the test, then what?
The fact is that we think that parents know their children better than anyone. We think that the observations of parents over time and the observations of trained and qualified preschool teachers are better indicators of whether children are ready or not. I think parents need to stop asking themselves, is my child ready for school, and start asking, is the school ready for my child? We don't want to make children have to spend 2 years in kindergarten, track them from the very beginning. We want to let them succeed.
It brings back memories of the IQ test and the uproar over them. Dr. Bredekamp and Dr. Ames, we thank you so much for coming in and joining us this morning. It's now 11 minutes before the hour. Next up, musician Frank Zappa. From concert halls to Congress, he's never been shy about speaking his mind.
He can open up a chain of hotels below. On the highway, yes indeed. Patriotic desperation. You know there'll be a case.
Have you seen this man on TV? His name is Ernest Wooliger. His company makes Stearns and Foster mattresses. Any second now, he's going to wake up and tell us that his mattresses are firm and comfortable and give you a great night's sleep. Or maybe he thinks we get the picture.
Hey, Halpern, all set? Everyone's waiting in the conference room. Gotcha. Presentation booklets just arrived from the printer. Super. Did you want them all stapled shut like that?
Another senseless career crisis that could have been prevented simply by using Pip.
Why, I like stovetop instead. I'll never forget the first time I made my husband stovetop stuffing instead of potatoes. He loved those breadcrumbs and spices so much, he got carried away. And so did I. Right to the gazebo.
Stovetop instead.
This week on CBS This Morning, Julie Andrews, Jane Seymour, and a reunion of the cast who made up the TV show MASH.
For more than 2 decades, Frank Zappa has been a popular, provocative rock music performer and composer. He is definitely his own man. Anyone who names his kids Moon and Dweezil is not worried about conforming. This morning, we have a self-portrait of one of the true individuals in the music world. Actually, a limited self-portrait, because a lot of what makes Zappa what he is can't be shown on television. Frank Zappa, in his own words.
I don't want to change the way I do stuff or change the content of what I do in order to achieve commercial success. I happen to think that what I do is wonderful, doesn't hurt anybody, and it's entertaining.
Madison Avenue, where men are men and women are useful in advertisements.
The concept of shock, it's like an empty thrill. We don't do that. We go, okay, it's like this. Like it or lump it. Here's the real words. Here's the real words to the real idea.
Put down his pants on. Put down his pants on. And have himself a squad of fantastic dance on.
Why is that shocking? I mean, think about it. What kind of a society do we have here? You know, you have a nation of people who go around saying all the time. They do say it. From Washington to the churches to everybody talks like that. But they pretend that if you use those words, it's woo. That's pathetic. I mean, it really is a juvenile way to run a civilization, don't you think? All right, two things. If Albert's going to play the solo in it, Paul should play the fills. Just living a normal life, the way I'm normal, I could be perceived as outrageous if you compare me to a person who's scared to say or do anything because he lives his life to save his job, to blend in with everything and won't be an individual. It seems that during this part of the 20th century, if you just want to be yourself, that's outrageous. Whereas a long time ago, remember the pioneers and stuff? You know, it was okay to be an individual. That wasn't outrageous. If you weren't an individual, what were you? You know? So basically what I am is old-fashioned.
Is everybody else downstairs, Walt?
Pretty much. There might be a couple people.
Come on down, I'll give you all a pep talk before we do this.
I really do have a cool job. I do optional entertainment. I'm an optional entertainment impresario.
Now here's something you don't see often. This is where rock and roll groups eat. And this is what they eat. I mean, not Michael Jackson, of course, but, you know, our kind of a band eats things like this. With ketchup on it. I have no problem whatsoever selling a lot of tickets or selling a lot of records. I would be absolutely delighted if my ticket sales were immense and my record sales were immense. Okay, and as a matter of fact, I think they should be, but they're not because the material doesn't get played on the radio. It doesn't get television exposure. So, it doesn't make me want to slash my wrist.
Yeah, at the beginning, how do I know everyone's ready?
You ask them.
I can't see everyone.
Well, you ask them, you go. Is everybody ready?
It's okay for me to say to myself, yeah, you're a failure. because I know there's so much of what I would like to be able to do, it's just not going to get done. I'm not a miserable failure. I'm just merely a failure.
There's a nubbly little weasel about 3'9", face puffed up from crime and life.
The thing about communicating with people is you have to talk to them in the language they understand. You can't always talk to them in the language that's easiest for you, okay? You have to change the message in order to get it across. And then whether or not it gets across depends on whether or not you're provided with the tools to transmit the message. So this is one tool, and here comes the message. The emperor is not, probably never has been, and I doubt whether he will be in the future, wearing any clothes.
And if you don't know by now, it's a mystery.